And for March 4th, 2011, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We also have Spanish translation here this afternoon. We have Santa Trujillo, where did she go? Oh, right here, thank you, who will be here to translate.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Sandra Trujillo, soy la intérprete para la reunión de esta tarde. Si alguien necesita de mis servicios puede venir a hablar conmigo. Estoy en la parte trasera del salón. Gracias.
Gracias a usted.
Thank you.
Okay, we also have headsets available for the hearing impaired if anybody needs to make use of those. At this time, is there any public comment for this meeting? Hearing none, we will move right into our agenda then. Our agenda is our discussion and planning of the superintendent's search with representatives from Hazard Young and Attia and Associates. And so Ms. Carolyn McKinnon will begin by presenting your overview of the process for us. And I believe you have met all the board members, so we won't go through introductions, but I do want to introduce our attorney, Craig Price, who just came into the room.
Who just came in late. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we would like to give you an overview of the process, and in your notebook,
You need the mic.
put a notebook at your place at the table. Hopefully that will allow you to keep all of the materials you'll receive throughout the process in a place. And it also has some documents that you'll find useful. It has that flow chart that you may have seen, if you recall, during the presentation when I was here a couple of weeks ago. So it has that flow chart in it. It also has it has the copies of the surveys. You'll see the survey form. I think you may remember that from the last presentation. That's the online survey that we'll use later on in the process. It also has a couple of sample letters that you can use in initiating the search, and we'll talk about all of this. And then it has under tab 3, the entire process is outlined for you. And when you have time over the next few weeks, it would be helpful to you to read that, so you will remember what we talked about, and it'll be a little primer for the things that are about to happen. So having taken a look at that, if we can start by just, we'll start by going through items and letting you help us define what needs to happen. This is our planning meeting, and at the end of the meeting, you have a copy in your notebook also of this planning meeting, and it'll come back to you in the form of minutes. We'll take this document, bring it back with the decisions that we agreed upon, so we'll both have those agreed upons. The most difficult part of this process is the calendar. And so we're going to start with the calendar, because getting 5 busy people to find times to do what you need to do is always a challenge. You received, I believe, a draft of a calendar that we put together. And if you didn't, I believe that we did not.
No, we did not.
No. Did you not receive it ever? Never mind. We'll I thought Mimi said she had given you some copies. Well, we'll have to find her.
Step out and grab her. You know what, Kate, I need to get my phone.
Yes, we need, it looks like this.
No, we do not. We did not receive that.
Do you want to have her take that and Xerox it? Have it Xerox?
I thought Mimi had some copies that maybe that's. But yeah.
Okay, I need to get my calendar.
All right, well, let's beyond that.
Yes, so I think Ms. Deegan is getting her personal calendar so we can make sure that we have the same times.
I know you know this, but all of you need to be present and participating in in the search. And there are not very many days, but there are some full days, and it's important that all of you have time during those days and that you don't schedule an event now that would interfere with that. And we realize sometimes that you're not always in control of emergencies and events, but it is very important that you all participate, particularly when we get to the interview process. That's very important that you all be there. All right. Do all of you have your own personal calendars with you?
Yes.
Well, then let's just start with a date on the week of Monday, March 14 and 15. We are going to be in the district. There'll be 2 of us in the district for those 2 full days. You're not required to be available during those times, except we want to pick 1 hour for you. And we'll talk about scheduling those hours later on. But we'll be in the district the 14th and 15th. That's to interview people that you choose, you designate for us during that date. We want to come in we'd like to do an open forum on the evening of Monday, May 14th, so that anyone who wants to come and share with us their thoughts about the superintendent position, we have a format we'll use to elicit information, but we'd like to have that date. We don't expect you to attend that. In fact, it's just as well you don't. People are more comfortable sometimes being candid if they're talking to us, but we want to get together with individuals within the district. We'd like to come back on Thursday, March the 31st, or Friday, April 1st. This is a special board meeting. At this board meeting, we want to be able to present to you all of the material we have gained about your district. It's called a leadership profile, and it will give you information about, it'll be a compilation of all of the information that we get from individual subgroups. It will look at the strengths of your district. It will look at the challenges and the issues facing your district. It will look at the desired characteristics from your new superintendent, and it will look at your district desirable characteristics. We'll compile all those interviews, and along the way, I want you to know that this is confidential. Whatever someone tells us, we don't come back and tell you that Mrs. Jones said this, but what we do is we give you all of the comments in no particular order so that you can see what all of the people in your organization. It's done by administrators, teachers, support group, parents, community, and board members. And so one of the things we need from you right now is to look at a schedule. When can we meet with you on the 14th or the 15th? Or I can come in Sunday, and if some of you, if it's not conducive to your work schedule, maybe we could do that now while we take a look at your schedules. Anybody available on those 2 dates?
I can do Tuesday the 15th for my 1 hour sometime in the afternoon. So I don't know if there's, maybe I should just go ahead and pick a time. How about 1 p.m.?
Yes. I'd also, I'm not available the 14th, and the 15th is good for me. Even later in the afternoon, I'm actually going to be out of town and coming back that morning. So the last block of that afternoon, if, well, maybe we should see with the other board members what their availability is.
My availability would be Monday, maybe sometime. Are you going to be here in the morning?
Yes.
Maybe around 11? Will that work? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Monique, can I
I
add?
can do, I can actually do, I can do Tuesday afternoon.
The only things taken is 1.
Okay. How about 4? Is that okay?
Is that going to be all right for you?
Right, because I need it.
Oh, you do
Well, as late as possible, so I could do 5 or, would 5
Would
o'clock
5
be
work
too
for
late?
you?
5 would be great for me.
Look at
Okay. The 15th.
Monique?
I'll do 4 o'clock on Tuesday.
Okay.
So Ed, we just need yours.
Anytime, Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning.
Thank
Anytime. Anything what's best for you.
You want to, Kate's at 1. Do you want to do 2? Would that work for
I
you?
said Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning? Okay.
Well, I could do 2, if you want
No,
to
no,
back
no.
us all up, 1 through 5. Does that hamper you with meeting anybody else over that 2 days? I mean, do you have other people you're meeting with those 2 days?
Oh, yes.
So, do you want some flexibility there? And
Let's do Monday. We have the 11 a.m.
11.
Monday.
I could do it anytime after 11, so,
You want to come in around noon?
noon, okay.
Maybe a little bit, maybe it'd be like 12:30 or something.
12:30.
You could be flexible about
We'll
that.
put 12:30, and that takes a long time.
I like to talk.
All right, let's say, this is a good omen. Did you all get a copy of that calendar?
No.
Well, now, I'm glad that was a good omen, because this next one might not be. The Thursday, the March 31st and April 1st fall in our spring break.
Spring break?
And I have plans to be out of town that week.
I can go with that.
I don't know if other board members do.
No, but if we could bump it earlier.
It's difficult for us to go earlier because we need, we'll have, starting on March 14th through the 25th, we're going to be collecting survey information. So we need to have that 2 weeks in order to, and then a few days to put our report together. So it would have to be after April. If we can't do it April, Friday, is that the end of your week or the first part of your week? Your
the end.
spring
That's the
break?
end.
Then maybe let's go to the next part of April and see what we come up with.
The first Tuesday, the 5th, would be a normal day for us, more normal day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do not have a board meeting
No.
on that day, and that time is usually available for many of us. I don't know if that's true for everybody.
Right?
How long would you, what amount of time do you need for that meeting?
Generally, we can do it in an hour and a half. It really depends on the kinds of questions that you have and members of your audience might also have.
Okay, I think Tuesday, the 5th would be a good time then. Is that satisfactory with everybody? Okay. And shall we say 5:30? Does
Yeah.
that work for you? Okay.
Works for me.
We'll say 5:30.
As you can see, not all of these dates involve you, and we've decided that April 4th would be the time we would develop a job description and advertise. So using the information we've gained from your leadership profile, we would develop a document for you to take a look at in terms of this would be what the advertisement would look like. And we'll talk later on about where we go. But we don't need to change that date because we'll be meeting with you on April 5th, and so we'll have it.
I did have a quick question. I know at some of the CSBA workshops we went to, there was a discussion about timing and deadlines for getting ads in certain publications. So this date would still work in order to get,
Well, let's
to
see.
meet those deadlines
Down here,
for
we
public,
have to be
for
by-
publicizing
If we have
them.
if we get our first advertisement in April the 11th, it will not appear until April 18th. The other thing, April 4th, if we wanted to get something in by, if we get something in by April 4th, we can have an April 11 print for the first print. This is EdCal. The other dates, depending on what you choose, but this is EdCal. We'd have to get something to you before the actual leadership profile. What we could do is put something together, send it to you, have you take a look at it. If you're comfortable with it, then we could place the ad by April 4th.
I personally would feel so, I'm looking at this timeline and dismayed at how late it's running. And I would be much more comfortable the earlier that first ad, I mean, I understand that our leadership profile might not be fully developed, but if the ads went out so people knew that the position was open, the earlier the better on that for me.
Let's talk about the ad. If you want just a generic ad which announces the position without any explanation, we can go ahead and do a generic ad. The first, if you back up again to March 28th, it'll appear on April 4th.
I'd like that. I mean,
I would like that
just
too.
the fact that we're looking is fine. I mean, if people are starting to think about,
Okay.
changing jobs, they need to know that sooner rather than later.
Well,
I think so too. I think with for an ad, we can probably, with just what we know at this point, we could probably make it specific enough to do the job.
Absolutely.
And get the information out there.
Thank you, we're sorry. And you're right, you have enough information on your website, you know goals, we have, your mission statement. We can make an ad that's appealing based on what information we already have. So what we're saying now is we'll submit the ad March 28th to print April 4th.
In EdCal.
In EdCal, and we'll talk later about the other publications. And that date doesn't interfere with any of the other dates. You have April 4th for the recommended application, excuse me. You have April 30th for the recommended application deadline. That's 30 days, which is a very standard time. So that still continues to work for us.
Okay.
Then we'll be doing reference checks and checking the applications as we go along. They come to us, actually, they'll be coming to us. I wouldn't be surprised if when we get home we don't have some, because districts like yours will, many people will want to apply for Santa Barbara, so we'll begin to see them. We are, as they come in, we're looking at it's an online process, we can see them, we can click on them and see how many we have. We can be reviewing all along, but what we try to do is keep that going so that we can have a pre-screen interview, and the dates we've set aside are May 13th, 14th, and perhaps Sunday, May 15th, if we need to, in order to get candidates in. It gets to be a busy time, so the weekend allows people, hopefully, to be able to schedule in. And we're also doing Skype with these pre-screens, because people can take an hour or so out of their day and visit with us in that way. All right, now we're down to May 23rd for a special board meeting. How's that look?
Well, my first question on that is, if you're doing your interviews the week of or around 13th and 14th, would it be possible to bump it to like Friday the 20th, the 19th or 20th, so that we're not pushing farther and farther into June when we're making final decisions?
Here's the issue. When we identify, we'll interview probably 10 to 15 candidates. Then we surface those candidates, and we have to have some time to do the reference checks, and there has to be quite a few done on each candidate. I'm a little concerned in 5 days. We're already pushing to the 23rd as fast. So you're thinking the 20th.
Friday the 20th?
Is that a closed session meeting or is that an open session meeting?
Closed, because you'll be discussing people.
Maybe on Sunday? Maybe on a Sunday?
Oh, maybe on a Sunday. Well, let's see what Sunday would be.
22nd?
And then Memorial Day, what do you think you'll run into anybody who's going to be taking a holiday during Memorial Day? That's a 3-day weekend?
Oh,
No, I've got the wrong.
No.
I got the right one. Is it the
20th? The 20th.
For Memorial Day?
Memorial Day is the 30th.
The 30th, the following week.
Okay.
So Monday is Memorial Day.
Monday,
Okay, so
Monday,
the
May 30th.
30th.
And
I was
I'm
a
talking
week
about
ahead.
Friday the
Yeah.
20th. which is a whole.
Right, that's what I'm
Four.
saying.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about the,
That's about it, yeah.
oh, yes, I'm sorry.
13. Okay.
So we're looking at either the 20th, 21st, or 22nd instead of the 23rd through the 27th. Is that
Yeah.
correct, what you were suggesting?
Yeah.
So that,
Which one?
Well, I would prefer the Friday, but I don't know what works for other
Yeah.
board members.
Yeah, I think the Friday
I
would
think
be
Friday
better.
would be good.
Friday, May 20th?
I guess one of my concerns is if some of these applicants are applying in other districts, we don't want them to be waiting for us where they may have offers coming in districts that have moved a little sooner than we have, so I don't know if that's a potential problem or not.
Well, there's always a possibility. It's our experience that your district will be highly sought after. And so there may be other districts. We don't have a group of people that we bring up, or we go look for people who want to be in Santa Barbara, and we look for people who match the characteristics, those things you list as desirable. So a candidate pool, while there may be someone interested in more than one search, there's still uniqueness in each search. So we worry a little bit about it, but having said that, we know other searches are going on at the same time, and this is the time when many searches go. But we're only moving this, when I say only, we're moving this 3 days. We would finish up on that either 14th or 15th, and then we'd have 3 days to bring those back. We would really have to be moving along. And we have to have you have to pick the people that we're referencing. So we can give it our best shot. How's that?
Okay.
My only concern is we give you enough time. I don't want to rush a process where all of a sudden we haven't done due diligence, and then we pick somebody that we find out later this. So if it impinges on what you can do, tell us.
Maybe the extra days is 21st or 22nd.
We're missing the weekend.
Yeah.
See, that's what we're going to miss is the weekend.
Yeah.
So that would give us really, you'd have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday if you had to.
So if you need the extra days, I mean, could we look at Sunday or?
Well, we had Monday, the 23rd would be.
But I mean, the question is, can we do, what I'm backing onto is that I would really like to see the next two meetings earlier, and we're looking at the first interviews and the second interviews. And so I guess, where do you need the time? Do you need the time before your
The reference check.
the reference check, or
that's
do you
the
need
heavy-
it before we schedule the interviews, if we could bump those interviews up?
Well, you're not going to be able to bump the interviews very much even if we go backward to the 20th. All right, let's figure a date. Okay. We're going to bump back to, which date do you prefer? The 20th? You want the 20th for the?
If you think that you can do your reference
gives
checks.
us 1, 2, 3, 4 days.
4 days.
All right, let's try it.
If we do that in the evening of the
Yes.
20th, so that you have
Yeah.
that day, because I imagine it'd be hard to do the reference checks over the weekend anyway.
No, actually, that's perfect time
It
to
is.
do
Well, would it be
reference
better for
checks
us to
if
do
you-
it on a Saturday evening, so that you have,
How do you feel about that?
that's fine with me.
Saturday,
It's okay.
Sunday, or Monday, it's fine
Yeah,
with me.
it's fine with me.
I want you to have the time you need.
Yeah, I think that I'm sensing a little hesitation, and that worries me, because I think the hesitation can translate into, we missed something, and
We don't,
And
this
we
is the
won't-
time where we really
right,
need
so
to
if you
dig.
need the time,
Why don't we go for Saturday evening?
The
That gives you
21st.
Friday and then Saturday daytime.
Yep.
So it'll be Saturday, May 21st.
Mhm. And the evening would be,
So we say 5?
5 o'clock, sure.
All right. Still have a minute left of your weekend. All right, we've got the 21st. Then we're scheduled, that gives us,
so Kate, you were interested in trying to move up the first interviews.
The first and second interviews.
Yeah, which
So
are the
instead of being on the 30th,
which is Memorial Day.
which is Memorial Day.
Yeah, that won't work. Anyway.
So here's what, you need 2 days that week. You need 2 full days that week.
Mhm.
And we need to come, we are not here with you in the interview. We prepare you, and we're going to come out here, we're going to prepare you when we do that slate. And then you need 2 days to interview those 5, 6, 7, however many candidates you choose. So now you tell us which days between May, let's see, we're looking at May 21st, not 21st.
Well, that's when they do the,
That's our date we're coming back with.
them, so after that,
So
anytime
they need
after
to
that.
pick.
Mhm. So from the 22nd
I'm wondering like maybe the
forward, right?
25th and the 26th, that
Yeah.
Wednesday and Thursday?
Wednesday and Thursday.
That circle there. And then we would come back on the 26th. All right, May 25 and 26.
Does anybody have anything at 11 o'clock on the 25th?
Yes. But
No, but-
this is just my own
Okay, it's nothing new.
meeting with Brian, but
Oh,
No, you
okay,
can
I've
touch
got something, I don't understand what it is, so hopefully somebody else did too.
One of those
Okay.
phantom appointments, you
Yeah,
don't know
okay.
until. Okay, so the 25th and 26th, is that what we're talking about?
So we just need to keep those days pretty clear.
Very clear.
Okay,
Completely clear.
yeah. Now, so, because all board members must be in the interviews, so we all have to make sure that we are going to be available.
Now you're down to, here's the fun time. Pick a week where you have 3 evenings available. All of you need to be with the candidates for 3 evenings. We're assuming we're going to get down to 3 candidates for your finalists. On that day, we recommend you bring the candidate in mid-afternoon, about 3:30, and 2 of you, not the same 2 necessarily, but 2 of you take that candidate on a tour around the district. You don't have to visit every site, but get a sense of what the district is about. And then come in, the candidate takes a little rest, and about 6 o'clock you come back for another interview. This one is following the interview you've done, the first interview, which is the formal 2-hour interview with the same questions, very precise. The second one is much less. This is where you follow up the questions, the things you want to probe, other information you want. It's a much less formal interview, and it's something you do on your own in the sense. Then the candidate and you all have dinner, and you have the option to invite the candidate's spouse or significant other if they want, or if you want, or not. If you say, no, we really don't want to do that, we just want to focus on the candidate. Oftentimes, superintendency is a shared responsibility with couples, and sometimes you'll find that having those 2 together give you an idea about how the team functions. It doesn't have to be, and sometimes the spouse isn't available to do that, or the significant other is not available to do that. That's part of our process. Quite candidly, most people say, oh my goodness, and when it's over they say, that was great. That was really you see the candidate in different circumstances, and the dinner is often the time when you really get a chance to see how how you all relate and interact together. You're going to spend a lot of time with this person, but that's one of the hallmarks of our process that is different from others. A little more time consuming, but in the end we think it might bring you a total picture. You'll have seen this person in a variety of circumstances. And then what happens the next morning is we invite the president and one other board member to have a quick breakfast with that candidate, talk about compensation. This is when the person comes to you, we'll provide them a format to tell you, these are the things I would like in my compensation package. It's not a negotiations process. They're simply going to give you a form and say, I'd like my salary, I'd like a salary in the range of this, I'd like to have some health benefits, I'd like some mileage, I'd like a moving allowance, those sorts of things. So you know what your candidate might be expecting, and it can give you some information to go forward with if that's the selected candidate. We don't have to do that. You can just get the candidate to give you that at the end of the dinner. But it's just one more way if the board president and whomever else you choose to be with you. If you can't do that, we understand. But it's another opportunity for you to see that your candidate in another circumstance. So that's the good news. You get dinner 3 times in 1 week, and you can go to a different restaurant, or you can go to the same one. This is the time when your candidate is no longer guaranteed any confidentiality. This is, you'll be in a public place.
And typically, who pays for the dinners? Does the district pick up the tabs for the
Food.
whole thing? Okay.
Yes. And of course, only food and those amenities, never
Right.
anything else.
So, I'm sorry, just to clarify, so that's only 2 board members, though? I mean, if all 5 of us are there, it's a
Oh, it's
brown
agenda
act.
size, absolutely. Oh, it's
Oh.
an agenda, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the
So we
agenda,
have public
people-
comment at a restaurant? and-
Absolutely, and people,
That's the AZA.
absolutely.
And I'm wondering if it's possible to have private foundations, perhaps, if they want to contribute
Sure.
to the search process, to
Oh,
pay for
definitely.
the dinners.
Definitely.
If that becomes an issue.
That would be good.
Sure.
Okay.
Your costs are these. If you invite someone for an interview, we assume you pay for it. The pre-screen, we do not. We say to the candidate, you can be pre-screened, you're welcome to come, and again, we can Skype them, but most people want to come and meet us and, get a chance to meet in person. But if you bring someone in, the expectation is that you would pick up their expenses, so those 2 interviews would be on you. Great idea to have some help, and occasionally restaurants are also happy to host you for those dinners, but that's part of our process that we think gives some valuable information about your candidate and how you get along in social situations as well.
So I want to look at those dates.
Yeah, with it, like the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday after Memorial Day, Tuesday the 1st.
Well, we're looking at the May 25th and 26th would be the
First round?
first round. So then you're saying
The
the,
next-
what is it, the 31st?
Oh, yeah,
First
sorry,
and
the
second?
31st, 1st and 2nd, yeah.
The 31st, we have a board meeting.
We have well, it's the 5th board meeting of the month, which we could always cancel,
Yes.
which might be a good idea in this
It might be
case.
necessary for this.
Second, and the second is graduation.
That's what I was going to ask. When are, I
Graduation.
don't remember our graduation
The
dates.
You
second.
could go
The
31st and 1st.
You're really,
The junior highs might be the first, I don't know.
No, they're the 2nd also, but they're during the day.
But they're during the day.
So,
So we could do
What if we did Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday? Oh,
And
but
you don't
Monday
want
is
it
the
to be- they
holiday.
don't have to be
Monday's the holiday,
consecutive, by
sorry.
the way.
Oh, they don't have to
Oh, they don't have to be consecutive.
Okay.
What if,
So we could do the
You don't want
31st,
them
the
to be so
1st, and the
far apart.
3rd.
Are there going to be any, are there any activities on the 2nd, though, on that Thursday, that we need to be?
well, we could do a late dinner because we're going to have graduations. The graduations will all be done by about 7:30.
Maybe that's pushing too much into the day.
We could
Yeah.
do Friday instead of the
Friday instead
Thursday.
of Thursday?
If they don't need to be consecutive, we could do Tuesday, Wednesday,
Well,
and Friday.
Mike, wait. Is the whole thing just the dinner? I thought there was a second.
there's a tour
There's a tour.
earlier in the
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the schools will all be closed.
The schools will all be closed, but that's okay.
But
Well,
that was,
Is it?
that was going to be, your first round were going to be the 25th and 26th.
Yes.
So now you're talking about your second round,
Right.
meeting a breakfast, this is the breakfast
Right.
meeting,
after
So-
the
after the dinner.
What about,
Wait.
like,
And the
what-
tour, you don't have to get out. You don't, if you want to get out and walk around, that's fine, but you don't need to. The idea is to drive them around the community. So-
well, what about Friday,
The
the
27th,
27th?
yeah.
And then the 1st and the 2nd? Sorry, the 31st and the 1st.
And the 1st. 7th,
I'm
that would be
concerned about
one.
Friday before the holiday.
Well, it's about one candidate. If one of the 3 candidates could make it,
It's been a holiday in Santa Barbara.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a beautiful
They
venue.
really get to know the community. They may be fighting over that day.
Now,
do it.
Yeah.
okay, now is that a day when everybody needs to be here?
Yes.
Okay. So Friday, May 27th.
This is their second round.
They haven't had dinner yet.
The dinner was the 25th and 26th.
No, that's your first 2 full-day interviews are the 25th and
25th and
26th.
26th.
This is where I'm getting a little bit confused. Are we supposed to have the dinner
no.
That's after.
Before
Two-day,
we
the
do-
25th and 26th.
It might actually be perfect for one of the candidates, because if they get there on the 25th and 26th, they wouldn't necessarily have to leave and then come back again. If there's somebody that's a finalist, then
We
they...
will come,
That's correct.
See, on the 25th and 26th, these are the 2-hour formal interviews with all of you.
Right.
Yes.
We will join you at the end of the 26th to debrief and select your finalists. So,
So one of them could.
but you won't know to tell them on the 26th.
Right, we won't know to tell them on the 26th.
But we could also say,
Yeah.
Could be.
you might leave your schedule flexible in the event you're selected.
Correct.
So that you can be here the following day.
So I'm good with the 27th, the 31st, and the 1st.
Wait,
Okay,
27th. It's the day, the very next day
Yeah.
after the interviews for the first candidate. All right, so let's try.
Okay, so what will the timeline look like on those days?
3:30.
On the
The
27th?
27th.
Okay.
2 of you would meet your candidate at his or her hotel.
That's what I was asking. So on the 27th, the 31st, and the 1st are days when not all of us need to be here.
No, because
The
we do
dinner.
have a
About the
formal
dinner.
interview after the
The dinner's
casual.
with everybody.
Oh, the dinners, I'm
But
sorry,
the
okay,
tour
that's
is
what.
with 2.
Okay, so
Okay, so-
3:30 for the tour.
Yeah, community tour, 3:30, 2 people, and then dinner, evening-ish, everybody.
And there's a formal interview before the dinner, or is it just dinner?
There is a less formal interview
A less
before
formal
dinner.
before
It is a
dinner.
time when we won't have the prepared questions. You will be operating off of what you heard during the formal interview. And you'll say, I wondered about, his or her experience with a strategic plan or with something. And so you'll be following up with those questions. Each of you will come with your own thoughts at that time. We'll develop questions for the first interview, the one on the 25th and 26th. This one is not formal. And so, but an hour before dinner, you all get together and you'll have another informal interview with that person.
Okay.
Then
So
dinner.
we should count on the interview being, what, maybe at 5:30? A 2-hour tour?
It's not 2 hours.
Or a 3-hour
Oh,
tour?
yeah.
1-hour tour? How long is the tour?
Well, generally an hour, so your district is too large to try to go every place. But
Okay,
if
so
you-
let's say 5 o'clock. Yeah? Okay, so at 5 o'clock on these 3 days, we would have a second interview.
See, the tour is going to be like at 3:30.
3:30.
And then you're going to have your second interview at 5.
Yes.
You think that's too fast?
I don't know, should we say 5:30?
How do you feel about it?
Let's say 5:30.
5:30?
We have a large district, we may want to show them a little
And
bit
some
more.
of you will just have been on a tour and you may want to.
So this
Okay.
would be their only opportunity to visit the campuses, correct?
Unless they did it on their own.
Oh, I would be very surprised if they
weren't
haven't.
popping.
If they
Yeah.
haven't, okay.
Depends on where they're coming from, to be fair, but I'm guessing.
So then
that-
should we plan dinner at 7?
Dinner at 7 is good. And then you can have the interview at 6?
No.
It's a casual,
5:30.
and if we do 5:30 to 6:30 and then dinner at 6:30, we
It's
could
going
say
to take us a few minutes
to
get where
transition.
we're-
We could-
I
yeah,
would
like,
say,
just
start at 5:30 and reservations at 7 or something.
reservations maybe at 6:45.
Yeah.
Okay.
An hour doesn't seem like very long.
And the beginning, sorry, you've
No,
had a question for a while.
No, go ahead, finish this.
Well, and the
Train of thought.
the beginning of it, the 3:30 to 6:30 is not open.
3:30 to 5:30.
To 6:30 is not open to the public.
Well, the 3:30 tour is not a board meeting, it's just a casual tour, there's 2.
Yeah.
5:30 is closed session. Because it's an
So the
interview.
answer to your question is yes,
Yeah.
that's
But
not
then the
open.
dinner is open session,
Come on in.
and, okay, so we'd need to notice an open session at some place at 6:45. It seems very strange.
Ed?
I'll express a concern about Friday, the 27th. Any idea of what you think the number of candidates will be on the 25th and 26th? How many people are we talking about typically?
Generally 5,
So,
but you'll get to decide if you want to see more.
so the people who come on the 25th, we'd have to say to them, be prepared to come back on the 26th.
On the
And the
27th?
people coming on the 27th, okay, so we're telling 5 or 6 people to be prepared, but then we're not going to tell them until late on the 26th. And so you get, in essence, you're forcing some of them maybe to stay an extra a couple nights or 3 nights. Now, we're paying for that, right? I mean, that's what concerns me a little bit, is to pay somebody. If we say stick
Or
around
they
until
can
the
come back,
27th.
because we'd have to pay for them to come back anyway, right?
But I'm trying to say to myself as a superintendent candidate, that unless I'm coming from a long way, I might come back.
It just seems the 27th is pushing those candidates to, we tell a lot of them to stick in town, because you may want to come back, and then they stick in town and say, oh, by the way, we don't need you, go on your way.
Yeah, and
It's the only way they'll visit a school.
the concern of that will, let me say, how much that will be a concern will depend on where our candidates are from. Some of them may be close enough that
It's not even an issue.
it's not an issue. They're not going to be traveling. I mean, they're going to just go home and come back.
Yeah.
Some of them may be obviously far enough away that it would require them to stay an extra night, so as not to have to
It just
travel
seems
again.
that the 31st, 1st, and 3rd would be more flexible for the people, and maybe not push the whole process so much.
I think the 27th, obviously, is a push, depending on whether one of those, because you'll just have interviewed and they'll either have to stick around or come back. You're right, it's a push, but I don't know whether, the 30th, that's Memorial Day.
You're saying the 31st,
31st, and then go to the 3rd.
31st, 1st,
And 3rd.
and 3rd.
And the 3rd is only, you would have a dinner on the 31st, a dinner on the 1st, a dinner on the 2nd, and the only thing that would happen on the morning of the 3rd would be for the board president and
No.
the,
There'd be no meeting on the 2nd, that's graduation day. So,
Yeah.
oh,
Yes.
they can't do the 2nd
Yes.
of May.
Our attorney wants to weigh in on this.
Well, it's really just asking a question. In view of the fact that everybody knows that there are confidentiality issues that are associated with having public interviews of candidates before one gets down to perhaps a finalist selection, I'm just wondering what the advantages are of having multiple candidates following the closed session interviews actually go out for a public meeting and have dinner
Thank you.
and
I was
so
gonna ask
on,
that question, too.
as given that concern, as opposed to getting down to a final preferred choice and then having the social aspect of it be with that candidate. And
Only
that's just
one
a question. I'm not expressing an opinion because you're the expert.
Well, we do 3 because we want the board to see their 3 finalists in that situation. And we've done a few hundred of these. This is our preferred method. This is your search. And if you say, we don't want to do that. But if you only get to the finalists, well, you've really already made your decision. There would only be one person coming back. So that isn't as significant in terms of the decision-making. You'd be looking at 3 candidates as opposed to, we've already decided.
Right, and I understand that having more information on a greater number of people is preferable, but I'm just wondering how that balances against the advice that this board has heard. I wasn't at the earlier meeting, so I don't know if you said it, but I know they've heard it from other sources, that it can really compromise the number of candidates that you get if they are informed that they are going to be subject to public identification in terms of their current employment and so on, prior to being the finalist. So I just throwing that out there.
We tell our candidates, and we've had some fair success, we tell our candidates that when you become one of the 3 finalists, you stand a very good chance of being exposed. So if you go into it, knowing this is what happens as the finalists. Again, we're subject to whatever it is you want to do, but obviously we think our process brings you the most information about the person. If you decide you don't want to do we'd have to think about how you get from the 5 candidates to the 1 candidate. There'd have to be some other process that would rather than another formal interview, and you can do that. We look at ways to put you in a different situation so that you spend some time with a person and you get to see them on their best behavior or not.
Ms. Parker?
Well, I know that it's fairly typical. I mean, I would still want to have 3 candidates for a final interview. But I also don't think it's going to be the dinner that makes a decision for me. I would be surprised if that were it. I mean, I hope it wouldn't be that. But I think it wouldn't be atypical to simply have 3 final interviews, and in fact, we could even schedule them over 2 days and have 2 people take people on tours at different times, and then just have dinner with who we think is our finalist. And that may, maybe that's something where it turns out that they eat with their hands, and we question that, but I would be okay with that process, because we certainly had it reiterated again and again, and those of us that were at the CSBA conference and went to presentations about how important it is to keep your candidates as confidential as you possibly can.
I think I heard everybody say that when you get down to the final 3, there is no confidentiality no matter what you do. But I don't envision these dinners. I mean, who's going to want to come and watch us eat dinner? I mean, it's not a public meeting as far as questions and answers. I mean, it's sitting and eating and talking. And it's not like you're going to have people intervening. I mean, there's not going to be, most of it's not going to be even related. It's just be dinner conversation. But number 3, when I did some due diligence on this firm, the board member from Burlingame at the end of the conversation said, keep in mind one thing, do not let anyone talk you out of a dinner meeting. He said that was the most important thing we did in Burlingame when we interviewed the 3 candidates. That did help make our decision.
Okay. Ms. Lamont?
I guess this is probably for you, Mr. Price, because I'm thinking if there's anything that's related to possibly hiring someone, doesn't the dinner then not become open session? Because, I mean, if there's some discussion there about the job itself, if we are truly gathering information about the candidate, which it sounds like it is, why is it public? Or
sorry.
Well, it doesn't, other than the venue in which the dinner is being held, as I would understand it. So, for example, as an extension of the closed session interview, you could retire, for example. I mean, if you didn't want to have it catered here at the district in a conference room, then you could retire to some restaurants, of course, here, like anywhere, have separate rooms where you could continue the closed session. So I think, that's really a very good point and a way to be able to do what is being proposed, should the board wish to do that, and at the same time not to have to venture into the confidentiality issue.
Okay. Ms. Deacon?
I like that idea a lot. And I was in the back of my mind, I was thinking, why can't we do that? And we actually have a terrific nutritional services program here at our district, and I would just suggest that we task them with catering the food for us. So we could have it here, and Nancy Weiss and her crew could bring in the food, and it would cost a lot less, which I think we're all aware of. So that's a
Yes, if we can keep that as closed session, I think that that's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea too. So let's and that works, that accomplishes the same thing that we were hoping to accomplish. So let's.
You must have some reason why you thought it was an open meeting.
Well, the dinner can be open. The interview is closed, but you can open.
We're talking about having a closed dinner.
Yeah.
If you're going to continue with the conversation, then you would close it.
If the dinner is going to be construed as an extension of the interview.
Which I
think I mean, that's sort of the point of having it.
Yeah.
So.
The dinner often, because you bring the spouse in, it ceases to be the same kind of a closed session interview process. You are still gaining information, but if you want to have it closed, we're happy about that. We have had the process where we close it for the interview part of it, and then when the spouse comes in, frankly, I've never had members of the public want to come in, but you are in a restaurant, but now you won't be, you'll be in the district office, so that's wonderful. But you can, if you consider the dinner part of the interview, then yeah, it would need to be closed.
Or we could go to one of our schools.
Or you go to
They're
one of our
having a party,
schools.
and they can still be there.
But the other part of that is people, if you come and go here, and now this won't happen here, but you know, there are reporters who will hang wherever you announce it, and they'll try to take snapshots of the, you know, of the person coming. So we just tell our candidates, you just be
Beware,
prepared
just in
for,
case.
things are, it can be a very
You got 3 of them
interesting.
sitting behind you.
Yeah. No, they'll have the idea. They'll
Well,
be
they
in
would
deep,
never-
whoever
they
it is will
would
be in
never
deep
do that.
disguise.
Yeah.
They would never do that. Okay,
Well,
that's what you've settled on.
I want to ask a question, but it's kind of a delicate issue, and I'm not sure. I guess part of what we were saying about having the meal with the person is that we do see them in a social environment, we see them in a different kind of environment where we might get a view of them that we haven't gotten from the other parts of the interview. And I guess my feeling is if we cater it and have it here on site, we're really maintaining the same sort of artificial environment that we've already seen them in. And that may limit the additional value of having that meal. And I'm thinking even like an issue of whether they would be drinking at dinner or not, which would, you know, be something that would be interesting to know.
They won't.
Not,
They won't be.
but I'm just wondering if that's something that we need to consider, that it's going to be the same then academic sort of district environment in which we've already seen them. Ms. Malone?
I think that you bring up a good point about seeing them in different environments, whether it's walking through a school or somewhere else. But, I think I also heard, I don't know if we need to make this exact decision now, because I heard Mrs. Parker say that perhaps the foundations can help out with this, and so there would be some, I don't know, I guess there would be some interest if that was a possibility to consider different options, and I'm not sure that we need to make a decision now. We can also have the district cater in just a different non-district
Right.
Environment, a different
Yeah.
site.
At another
Okay.
site.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's possible.
McKinley or-
So let me ask this question,
Or
do we
even
need to make this decision now?
Not the location. We
Okay.
would like you to make the dates.
So if we set the dates, we can have a little bit more discussion about the location and the,
We have
sort of
actually
the
had
setup.
board members host in their home, because there's no requirement, but you make the point. It's that environment that you're looking to create, and there is a certain amount of formality in the boardroom. So,
well, even how they interact with wait staff, et cetera, is
yeah,
something that I
exactly.
would be interested in seeing.
Is it mandatory that all 5 be at the dinner? Have you ever had situations where 2 board members take them out to a private dinner?
No, because it's too important
Okay.
for, you all have to weigh in on this one.
Okay.
I want to say that I think it would be great if the district catered it. I think they're always happy to cater anywhere.
Right.
So I'm not concerned about the location. It could be at any school site, it could be the district office, it could be at one of our homes. Or a foundation may say, we have a space that you could use for that. And I'm happy with that. I just really would prefer it to be a closed session. That was my main concern. So if that's taken care of, I'm happy with that. I still prefer the 27th, 31st, and 1st.
That's a Friday.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Ms. Lamone?
This may be too much to ask for, but could we put the 27th, what is it, the 27th, 31st, and 1st, and the 3rd on our calendars? Because in case someone can't make it for any reason on the 27th, we have a backup. Or does
Someone
that
being
not
one
work
of
well?
you?
No, one of the candidates. I mean, I don't know where they're coming from. If they're close, I don't think it would be a problem, but if they're not,
Well, I would actually expect a candidate to want this job badly enough as a finalist that they will, once they see the timeline, that they will make their calendar clear for us. I mean, that would need to be a priority for a candidate.
Yeah.
We will do what we call an email blast. We have the ability through our district, our corporate website. As soon as you give us these dates, we put it out to all candidates. And so they know in advance, these are the dates that you've selected. And so if you want to be considered, this is something you'll need to clear your calendar for. We make every opportunity. We try to switch the dates around so it's most convenient, and candidates cooperate with that. But you're right, they'll know in advance, these are the dates you're going to interview, and if you want this job, you need to be available.
And that addresses that issue, that concern we had about the 27th as well, that the candidates will know that that's a possible date that they may be asked to return for. So even though they're not finding out until the 26th whether they are one of the people who are going to be here, that date won't be coming as a shock to them, or won't be the first time they've heard of it.
Yep.
So, okay, great. So I think we're sticking with the 27th, the 31st, and the 1st. And as we go along in this process, if we see that things are unfolding in a way where we might need to have that 3rd, open, we can address that again, and we can kind of just, maybe I'll keep that in the back of our minds that we may be called upon to use that date.
So we're going to notify candidates of the possibility of the 27th, the 31st, the 1st, and the 3rd.
Well, I would prefer them not to be
Not
notified
the
of the
3rd.
3rd.
Don't notify them of the 3rd. We're
But if
just
you
keeping
tell
that.
us, that there's a huge problem with this in a week or two,
Then you can add it.
we can go back and revisit it.
So the
Ms. Deacon?
21st, 31st, and the
Right.
1st.
Yes.
Right, and I would just weigh in that on the site tours with them, being on a campus when it's full of students, to me, is very different from being on a campus that's emptied of students. And so I would get more information watching them interact and respond to issues and concerns we might have that we would bring up as part of that. So for me, that's a real important part of the tours while school's still in session.
Then I'm going to suggest that instead of a 3:30 tour, that we do more like a 1:30 tour, so that there are students at all of our sites.
Yeah.
And you are in session the 27th, 31st, and 1st.
Yes.
Yes.
So then your tour would be at 1:30, then you would have
So do we still want the interviews to be at 5?
there.
We could bump it to 5 o'clock.
I'm sorry, 5:30, yeah. Should we bump it up to 5 o'clock?
That's nice, because that'll give us actually more flexibility
Okay,
with the
is that going to
tour.
work for you, Monique? Okay. So 5 o'clock,
Should be the interview.
and then we can do dinner at 6:30 maybe?
Sure.
And it just kind of flows into
Okay.
the, but
Okay.
good
There's a little bit of downtime.
Mhm. Okay. I'm sorry, yes.
That's okay. The only thing I would say is, this is great, we should probably double check the class schedule and the bell schedule for those days, because they tend to not be traditional school days.
Right.
And I actually think a couple schools actually
Get
have
out
like half days.
early.
So just to check.
No, nobody has a half day.
They shouldn't be having
on
a
any of
half
those
day
days.
on those
It's a
days.
half day on the 3rd,
Yeah.
but,
Not on the others.
I mean, on the
27th?
2nd. No, it's not. It's Memorial Day weekend, but nobody gets out early on the Friday before.
So maybe we can just check.
We can double check.
We can
but
double check,
I'm
yeah.
fairly confident nobody does.
Or we can work around the school's
Yeah.
schedules if there's
Yeah.
some
Yeah,
that
we
are
can
and some
visit
that
some,
aren't.
yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and look at the tour at 1:30.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even if the school, you would be able to move around, not all schools would be out early, so you could make a schedule
Right.
that would accommodate 1:30.
We can figure it out. We
Okay.
can make it work.
Then we're going to forget about the bell schedule. All right.
At these dinners, the 5 of us plus Who?
The candidate, and if he or she decides they want to bring someone else,
So 7 people.
7 people, max.
And our legal counsel will guarantee us that it's okay to have a closed session.
Yes. Okay. So then, after we have our dinner, then you talked about a breakfast meeting the next day.
That's
Which-
with 2 of you.
I'm not sure we need to have a breakfast meeting. I feel like we could ask the candidate to submit
You can,
the,
compensation
the
form.
compensation form at the end of the dinner, or even just submit it to us, you know, they can submit it to the district the next day if they want to.
It happens. We ask them to, at the end of the dinner, we ask them to give it to you.
Okay?
And then you have that information as you start your deliberations.
Okay. And then, so then what's the timeline at that point?
And we're going to come back, if you finish your last dinner on the 1st, we need to get together with you for a couple of hours after that. Probably don't want us back on the night of the 1st. It'll be late, so when would it be convenient? That's why sometimes the breakfast piece, then we meet with you right after that. So we can meet with you the next morning, when it's convenient for you.
We could do Thursday the 2nd. We could do it in the
We
morning.
can do it in the morning.
There are the
Well,
junior high
it's- yeah.
graduations. They typically start at 10:30 or 11, but I think that probably our junior highs would understand if we were in a special meeting about the superintendent search.
Yes,
If
we could, if we said the superintendent.
We could do it the 3rd, one day
Yeah,
later.
we could also do, would that work?
The 3rd of, which is a Friday.
Friday, June 3rd.
On Friday, June 3rd, I can only do early morning or afternoon,
And I can't do afternoon.
What's early?
like 8. I have to be at UCSB by 11.
Would it be better to do?
So in that case, we may.
We,
go back.
well, I'm
Maybe
just
the
wondering if we just do
2nd makes more sense.
Thursday.
I think Thursday might be
Thursday.
easier, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want to feel rushed, I think, in this deliberation.
So which day?
So
Thursday.
Thursday,
The
June
2nd.
2nd in the morning. And morning for you starts.
It would be good.
Can we do 8 a.m.?
8 a.m.?
Sure.
Yeah. Would that be,
We'll-
you look so sad on that.
Yeah. The
Why
traffic is
8
horrible.
a.m.?
Well, just in case some of us, some of the junior high graduations start at, if you need a couple of hours, maybe we can do it at 8:30 and just.
I just thought that we had agreed that we might not cover the junior high
Okay,
graduations.
we'll have administrators do the junior high graduations this year, and, sure, so maybe 9 a.m.? What
Okay,
works for
so
you?
9 o'clock would be
9
great.
a.m.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
I want to be fully alert for this meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
This was really hard.
I thought you did great. This is good. We're pleased. This is,
Okay, so let me
Sometimes
just
it's
get this.
difficult.
Thursday, June 2nd, then, we will meet with you. At that point, we will reach our final decision?
yes.
Okay. And then what happens?
Well, then we'll assist you in, first of all, due diligence. We'll have that report. Usually takes about a week. Then we'll also we'll have the candidate sign an intent to sign, which says, I'm sure Mr. Price would agree with me, it's not binding, but it says pending due diligence, pending a site visit, and pending contract negotiations. We're asking the candidate to sign and say, we're coming to, pending these things, we're going to come and join you. Gives us some security and the candidate some obligation. We know we can't bind them to it, but our candidates feel some comfort in knowing that if these things are all good. And then you'll go do a site visit. That's an option.
That's what I was wondering about. At what point would we do the site visit?
Well, it depends. We have a couple of, you're out of school fairly early by most standards, so in many cases, you'll still be visiting a district that is not out of school yet, so you might still find your candidate among, students and teachers and et cetera, so the district would still be open. That would be ideal, but the site visit affirms what you know, we recommend it. It's one more thing if to say, we've done everything we could to be sure this is the right person for us. And a site visit does not have to be all 5 of you. If it is, you can go, and you're allowed to agendacize that meeting and leave you can all go someplace to visit this person.
I'm okay with it being
1 or 2 of you.
I think 2 people for
Well,
a
but
site
I think
visit.
everybody who wants to go should.
But then you have to notice it as a meeting as opposed
Yes,
to just.
you do.
But isn't that the same concept though as the dinner? If we're gathering information that's going to, well,
But then it's the finalists'
Yeah,
decision.
at
Yeah.
that
The
point, I think
finalists
it's
will
pretty
be
much
outed.
open.
Yeah, the finalists definitely.
And it's not a negotiation, I mean, we're not interviewing them at that point. We're talking to other people, et cetera. I guess. Mr. Price?
There's a particular provision in the Brown Act that contemplates and allows for boards to go and do what's being talked about.
Oh,
Yes.
and without having to notice it, or with noticing it, or?
It gets noticed.
Okay, but we're allowed to do it.
Yes.
Okay, so I think this idea that we would leave it open to whoever is interested in attending,
Well,
and able to attend.
Yeah, and we can leave that till, 72 hours ahead of time to decide whether it needs to be a board meeting or not a board
Right.
meeting.
So then, at this point, I guess, we probably do want to talk a little bit about the timeline, though, when we think that might happen.
Well,
So if we've made our final decision on the 2nd, you will do due diligence, and
Takes
You've
about a
already
week.
done due
that
diligence.
takes about a week, so that would take us to the 9th. We would want to do our site visit after that?
You don't necessarily have to wait for the due diligence.
Okay.
When we talked we'll pre-screen all these candidates. One of the things we asked them, is there anything we should know specifically about whether you have any, we're looking for everything. We're looking at their financial records, bankruptcies, DUIs. We're looking to verify their degrees. We're looking to, if they've had an arrest record, have you ever been convicted of a felony, in some cases a misdemeanor. So we're looking at all those sorts of questions. So the candidates already know, if there's something in your background, tell us now, because when we do the due diligence, if it surfaces, then we're all going to take a very dim view of that person. So going into it, you should know if you have a candidate who has something. Having said that, someone might say, when I was 19, I was arrested in the park after dark doing something I shouldn't have, sort of thing. So you may decide those are not issues that will keep you, but you want to know anything that could come back to embarrass you about a candidate. So you can do the site visit while you wait for the due diligence. And the only risk there is something will come up and the candidate will not have been honest with you. That's very, very rare. Candidates they know we do it, and so there's just no reason not to share ahead of time and let you know. So when we do the initial reference checks, we'll come to you and say, you need to know this person is, didn't pay his taxes on time, or, whatever it is that comes up.
Okay, so we would not know who that person is going to be until the 2nd. I imagine it would take some time to contact their site and arrange to be able to get together with the particular groups that we want to interview. So that might be a week anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have
Very
a
much.
suggestion for how long it normally takes? And what do your boards usually do?
A week, 2 weeks.
Okay. Again, coming right up on June 30th at that point.
Exactly, I agree.
I would suggest earlier rather than later, so maybe try for the 9th.
That's what I was thinking. The 9th is a week from when we do it, and it is a Thursday. And we would want to hopefully do it while school is still in session. So that's another consideration for doing it as early as possible. So June 9th sounds appropriate to me. We can shoot for that.
I did have one question as you were talking about the due diligence. So is that not done with the top 3 finalists?
No, just
So-
the finalists.
So it's it's just self-report if there's any problems. I mean, in other words, those candidates, we're depending on them to tell us their degree is really where it's from. So do you ever get in a setting where you've gotten all the way to this finalist piece and that kind of information is disclosed? I would have thought maybe that due diligence would have happened with the finalists as opposed the semi-finalists as opposed to waiting till the last.
Because there's a
round.
considerable cost involved, we do it only on the finalists. If you as a board wish to incur additional costs, we do it as part of your fee. But if we did it for 3 candidates, that would be an additional candidate. We think this costs around $700. So we do it on the finalists. I will tell you what might happen. Sometimes candidates have names that are common, and you might pull something up and there will be numbers of things will be listed. It's not the candidate, so it takes some time for the candidate to straighten that out. Mm-hmm. That happens occasionally, but I've not had an experience where someone did not give us information that was quite significant. It's just pretty well known now.
Okay.
And
Ms. Parker and then Mr. Hart.
Mr. Price's office can also do a check for us to be sure with those semifinalists that
we will conduct that ourselves because that's part of our contract because, and I know you know this, we do ours on, we send a person, we know you can do credit checks real quick, but this is much deeper than that. And the degree part of it is also important. That has been an embarrassment in California in the past few years. Some of you may recall we've had some issues where you don't have the right name, you don't have the degree, and we don't want to be embarrassed at all. So we can dual that, but we will do it ourselves, and it's part of, you've already paid for it.
Okay, great. Mr. Hearn?
What are you doing during this week of conducting background checks that's different than what you do for the finalists?
We'll go deeper and deeper and deeper. So every time at each level, we start with.
What do you do in the background?
What do we do?
During that week, you're doing background checks. What kinds of things are you looking at?
We're contacting individuals. We're looking at newspaper clippings. We're checking with references where there might be someone that they've worked with, some incident. Everybody Googles, and you'll Google too. We're continuing to be sure that there's nothing about this person that we don't know about. And that doesn't mean that candidates are necessarily eliminated, but you want to know everything we can tell you that would let you know this is the place for this person. So we're looking for those kinds of things. But a lot of what we do is through connections, and we have our network. And so we're going to keep going, we're going to keep burrowing. And
so there are things you're doing during that background check that will eliminate some possibly?
Very possibly.
So we can all Google.
So you're talking about the initial background check before we,
to review the applications and background.
And we'll do initial, like for instance, we don't call board members for the first 5 or so. There's no need to do that. That person has not been identified as one of your finalists. We try to protect our candidates as far as we can, and then after that, we say to them, we'll tell them, and now we're going to be calling your board members, because we have to have that before it's over. But we are discreet about that. And we are also, all of our references are confidential. The people who talk to us know that what they tell us is confidential.
Okay, I have a question going back to the deadline for the applications ends on April 30th. Then, or I think that's what this says, recommended application deadline. Okay. Then from the 2nd through the 6th, you will be reviewing the applications and conducting background checks.
Correct.
Then it says the top candidates are interviewed by the consultants. How do we get to the top candidates? How do we determine who the top candidates are?
It's our screen. We do initial screens. As the applicant pool is filling up, we're checking those people.
Okay, so what I want is a date or a meeting in which we confirm that those are our top candidates.
You have that on, let's see, May, where's our date for this? It's the first interviews with the slate of finalists. You meet with us, have we missed a date here?
It's Saturday, the 21st at 5 p.m.
There you go. Consultants will meet with the board to identify finalists and plan. That's your
So,
time.
I
Okay,
guess-
so that's our time. Will we see all the, at that time, will we see all the applications
You
who
may
have
see all-
not made your top?
You may see all the applications.
Okay.
I'll bring my laptop,
Okay.
and we'll, because we're online, we'll tell you why we chose these candidates. We'll tell you why we didn't choose some that looked like they might match for you. We'll tell you there's some non-traditional or unusual candidates that you might want to see. They don't match your criteria, but might be. And then if you've heard or seen, if you want to scroll down, however many you have, we can click, 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 and we'll tell you why we screened those in or out.
Would there be a way for us to go online and review those applications before that meeting?
No, it's confidential.
Okay.
And so we're doing it in the confines of this meeting, because you may know some of these candidates, and they don't want you to know that they applied if you're not interested. That's the confidential part of it. But
But I thought we have access to all their applications once we meet with you anyways.
if you want to, when we're all together, we'll share them with you at that point in time, if you want to see all of them. But we'll make you copies of the applications for those you're going to see. And by the way, we'll ask you for everything back. We'll shred it. You can keep the notebook, but we ask for all the information back. But our candidates expect that we don't expose them to everyone. But if you want to see all of the, however many there are, we can do that the day we're all together.
Okay.
But you can't get on the website.
Okay. Ms. Lamone?
So the day that we're all together, which is May 25th,
First.
no, 21st, no one will have been called for an interview then?
No.
No, this
Okay.
is where we decide
All
who
right.
it's called.
And I know personally, I would like to have access, at least to all of the
Information.
Sometimes the board will designate a board member to sit down, because it's going to take a while. These applicants there may be 9, 10 pages short, 15, 16 long, so there's a lot of reading to do. And sometimes somebody will say, well, all right, board, one of you, take the laptop and...
That's why I was wondering, because if we haven't seen these until the 21st, I would imagine that there could be potentially it could take a long time to reach our top 5 if we wanted to look beyond the ones that you have given us.
Well, I'm going to make a prediction.
Okay,
You're probably going to agree with us.
okay.
And if you don't, there'll probably be a rationale, because the reason you've hired us is because you believe we have access to the candidates, that this is something we do, and we're generally on target with you.
Okay.
But I know that it's always a concern, that we want to be sure that you saw everyone who was there and not. So we're happy to share that with you, just not, but on the spot on that day, because we don't want these people to be exposed to the whole world.
What we do prepare for you is a summary profile of all the applications.
Okay.
So who
That would be
was it,
helpful.
what do they look like,
That'll
what
be
their
helpful.
backgrounds?
Okay.
We do provide that for you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
for all of them. You'll give them.
Thank you. That would be
We will have
helpful.
already made calls on these folks, and
Okay.
you will hear about what we've learned, and that's
Okay.
why we think you'll be comfortable.
Bless you.
So
Ms.
I just
Mo?
need, clarification, because, so we're getting the summary profile May 21st, but you're doing first round of interviews May 13th through 15th.
No.
No.
That's us.
No.
That's,
They
are.
Well, they're interviewing the candidates that they think should come forward.
Yes.
But we're going to see their applications. So it may be that there's somebody that they didn't do an interview vet on that we think really should have, and then we'll have to address that. But
So when do we get the summary profiles? On the 21st?
on the 21st.
Okay.
First. And they'll be presented to you orally. We will not give you our notes, that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But we'll tell you everything we learned about them.
Okay. Ms. Deacon?
I have a question about the reference check process. Say you go to someone in the district of that individual. When you ask for those reference checks or letters, how do you protect confidentiality at that point? I mean, do they come directly to you? They don't come through the person who's being vetted. Do you understand my question?
Go ahead, Meg.
In the application process, the candidate will identify folks that we can contact, and we then remind them of the confidentiality of this, and they know that, so they trust that whoever is listed there, if contacted, will know that it's confidential.
And would that letter come directly to you, or would it come through via the candidate to you?
The letters come
Reference.
in the application.
The candidate posts the letters of application that he or she has solicited. We don't spend much time there, because you're not going to give me
Anything new?
anything that would,
So
so what we do is, we're off the page. We will contact some of those references, not all of them. We will contact some of them. Our job is to go beyond that. Again, let me say, for the first round, when we do the top 15, we're dealing with people who are going to be comfortable telling us what we want to know, because it's between us. So we'll have a pretty good sense of those 15 candidates, assuming we interview 15. We'll have a pretty good sense of they are who they say they are. But at every level, we'll keep going. So after you identify your slate, then we're going again. We're going to go another round, and we're going to dig deeper, and we're going to look for resources outside the typical. We try to be careful initially that we don't go into the district and embarrass someone, because if I called Monique, well, you wouldn't tell, but somebody might share with somebody else. So we'll use their letters of reference to begin with, but we'll call confidential sources people that will be confidential with us.
So I think, though, in addressing your question, that the feedback probably isn't in writing at that point. It's verbally given to you when you talk to them. So
That's
it's be
correct.
coming through.
We keep our notes, because in the unlikely event that we ever find ourselves in some sort of litigation, we have to be responsible, but we don't share that.
Okay.
I guess then my next question is, if there's a site visit on Thursday, the 9th, it's completely outed wherever that person is from.
It is.
So do you recommend a meeting the night of the 9th to have a final vote on the contract and announce out, or what do you recommend?
Once you're doing the site visit, it's up to, then yes, you'll have a meeting. You will announce who your candidate is. Then you'll start contract deliberations, and I'm sure you'll work with your counsel to put a contract together for that person. Then you'll share that with that person, and then they'll.
So do we announce on Thursday the 9th that this is our finalist, and that we are moving into, we'll have a special meeting next week, the following week to is that how it works?
Well, we'll have a board meeting on the 14th. We have a scheduled board meeting on the 14th.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not want to jump the gun in announcing our candidate until.
Well, I think that it's going to be out there, because it's going to be out this. I would rather us make the announcement that this is our finalist and that we are in final contract negotiations, because if we don't, the press will.
Oh, I see what
After
you're
you
saying.
come back
I see what
from
you're
the
saying.
site
Yeah,
visit.
as long as we're saying we're in our contract negotiation, because that could be a sticking point.
Do you have any opinion
So
on this,
do you have-
Mr. Price?
If we were to announce it then Friday night, or, I'm sorry,
Or Thursday
that
night.
Thursday night, or early Friday morning?
Once you've selected your finalist, I don't see any reason in delaying the announcement, since it's going to become public prior to the time you go make the site visit. And knowing that that one person's candidacy has been reduced to a finalist position is going to frankly allow a lot more vetting of that candidate. And I think you've seen some situations before where information not previously known became known once somebody had been publicly identified. So I don't see any reason not to.
Okay, so we could even do it before the night.
The second, then.
We should identify the finalist on the 2nd, because that's when
We haven't made the site visit.
Well, yes, but they're still a finalist, that they would be the finalist even.
If I understand your question, are you saying as soon as you've identified who the finalist is, should you go ahead then and make that information public prior to noticing the presumable board meeting that will occur for the site visit? And again, I don't see why there would be any reason for delay.
Okay, so,
Unless there's something about the candidate, him or herself, needing to take some steps before it becomes public. So it's possible, I suppose, that you would want to leave that open right now
That's
and
what I was
have
gonna say.
discussion with the candidate at
I think
that
that's
time.
another issue that we could decide, that we don't have to decide now. It's good to think about it now and think about sort of the pros and cons for why we would want to do it earlier rather than later. But we probably don't need to make that decision at this point. Mr. Herron had a question also.
Is it on the 2nd where we're going to choose the finalists?
Yes. Yes.
And on the 9th, you would make your visit.
Why wouldn't we point out who our finalist is?
Well, can I
Well-
just jump in here for a second? I thought you said you do a lot of due diligence between that point and the site visit, correct? So there is actually more research that's being done at that point, so it might be premature to make the announcement
Until the 9th.
until
So
the,
my-
or earlier in that
Make the
week
site visit
before
like
we
Wednesday.
start the site visit, yeah.
Okay.
So basically, I'm hearing that we don't have a real consensus on when that should happen.
But you could figure
So
that out.
I think that it's good that we do wait and see how the process is unfolding. And at that point, we can decide, certainly, by, within a week of, so by the time before we get there, we will have a better sense of what we think the appropriate process would be.
But would the idea be that the final, like hopefully we have the site visit, there's negotiations going on about the contract, maybe, some between the board president and the candidate or
Right.
whatever. But would the idea be that maybe on the 14th at our board meeting, we would ratify the contract?
I would certainly hope that we would be at that point by the 14th,
Yeah.
and that at that point, we could make a very public,
Yeah. And I do want my board members, my fellow board members to know that I will be out of state on the 14th, but I will participate in the meeting remotely.
Okay.
So that it can be a 5-0 vote,
okay, okay.
because it will be a 5-0 vote.
And
Ms. Vaughn.
I want to throw out there that if we meet on the evening of the 8th for some reason, I have a complication, because as it is, the 9th I have something, but I was like, oh, I'll just travel late that night.
Yeah.
But
then I
that's
still-
just the site visit. The 9th is the site
Right,
visit.
but if anything, I'm just throwing that out there for the.
Nobody needs,
Yeah.
well, it's
Okay.
fine if only 1 or 2 people go on the site visit.
Right, the
I
site
mean,
visit
I
we're
won't be
saying
there.
is going to be open to whomever wants to attend and can and is able to attend. So, yeah, so that should not be problematic. Okay. Oh. Yes, okay, so,
So we're going to reduce this to a document. We'll come back to you and see if we captured everything you gave us. Now,
Okay.
we have just a few more minutes to give you a little more information about
Okay.
some pieces and parts of the process.
would it be possible for us to take maybe about a 5-minute
Oh,
break?
of course.
Wait,
Sorry, this has
Sorry.
to do with the dates, and we
Okay.
may be getting to this later, but at the very beginning, you discussed having an open forum the 14th or 15th. And perhaps we're going to discuss this in a little bit, which would be if we want 1 or 2, one in English, one in Spanish, but if it's going to be a date thing, I thought I'd throw it out there.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is a discussion for now or later.
It is, we'll come, when we come back.
Okay.
Take a 5-minute
Okay.
break, and it's on our next list.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, but it's not, Santa Barbara Bank just told me.
Yeah.
The Santa Barbara
Consultants and hopefully. I think we were trying to get a little sense of how much longer we think that this will take.
Let's shoot for half hour.
Oh, that's perfect, that's fine, yeah.
We're now going to just give you a couple
Okay.
little details to give you some of the substance behind
Okay.
some of the work.
Great, thank you.
And the first part is the data that we collect that is compiled into what is referred to as the leadership profile that you will be receiving and you will be using to reach consensus on criteria for selection, the selection hiring process. And those actually become kind of our marching orders as we're looking at applicants and seeking candidates for it. And we've established that on the 14th and 15th will be when we're here 2 full days to conduct these interviews. And in tab 1, I believe you have a couple of forms that may look.
No, they don't have
Do you have this, something like this?
They don't have it.
They don't have it. Okay, well, it's basically the questions that we ask in the interview. They're usually to the various stakeholders that you will identify for us, and including yourselves. And they're usually hour interviews. And you do have a schedule that looks like this, and Mimi will be working with Carolyn to set up the times and communicate with the folks that you identify, which are listed. We start, of course, board members. We want students. We want parents. We're thinking that the public forum would be on the 14th, and Monique, you mentioned English and Spanish, so we would want 2 scheduled on the 14th. Mr. Hero?
On here it says 4 days, but in reality, it's
4
2
days.
calendar days you'll be here?
2 people,
2 people, so you each count.
2.
So
I'll
you won't be
here 2
doing
days.
stuff together, you won't?
We won't be interviewing together, no.
No, not in order to.
Each of us will have our own schedule. We'll be there for the forum, but each of us will have our own schedule. So that's how the 4 days count.
And so basically what we're looking for is from them input on what they see as strengths of your schools, the district, the community. We also ask them to share with us if there's some areas of interest, challenges that we would need to know and share with a candidate. We ask a question about leadership. And the question about leadership is about the characteristics, areas of expertise, administrative style that might work and be a good fit with you all, because you'll be part of your team and this district. We'll ask about the community. And it's a very attractive community. They may offer some very specific characteristics that would be helpful to attracting candidates. We think you're going to draw quite a few and some very good candidates. And then we usually close off by asking them if there's anything that we've not asked they'd like to share that they think would be important for us to know. And we also ask them if they might know someone that is interested that might be a very good fit for your district. And what we commit to do is every person that is identified, we make at least 1 contact with. So that's also, as Carolyn had said, our due diligence. We go out and what we're finding that we do, and I think we do very well, is we go out ourselves and very aggressively look for candidates for you based on the profile. In addition to the oral interview, we, and I believe this is already going to be online, it's what is referred to as superintendent profile, that has, it's research-based and identified 6 dimensions of effective superintendent. And this will be online, and folks can go in there and provide input. The first area is vision and values. As you can see, instructional leadership, community and relationships, communication and collaboration, core competencies, I mentioned earlier, administrative skills, what set of skill sets does this person need, and of course management. So those are the 2 data pieces that go into the collection on not only on the interview days, but then continue through this profile, and then we compile it into a report for you. Now, when we review the report for you, and we've set the date for doing that, in that evening, which I believe is, let's see, what did I write down? on the 5th of April is when we would be reviewing the profile with you, and at that same meeting, we would be asking for the criteria that you would like for us, now that you've seen your data, which of these criteria would you like for us to hone in on? And we usually take that as our marching orders and to start identifying some candidates for you. Okay. Are there any
subgroups.
Now, and I don't know, do you have a list in your notebook that has prototype folks?
Yes.
Okay, so we've scheduled each board member. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Can I just ask something about this survey?
Yes.
This will be both Spanish and English online?
Correct.
Great, thanks.
One thing we need from you is we typically do 6 subgroups. We mentioned the board, we mentioned administration, support staff, parents, community. I've missed one.
For students, parents, teachers.
I said faculty.
Oh,
Let me write that down.
Classified
We have
staff.
board, faculty, parents, community members, support staff, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we can do up to 6 groups. So you said students, we, candidly speaking, don't usually get a big turnout. We can sometimes get a big turnout if we can get to have a forum for students, but we don't typically get a big turnout for them. So may we use those subgroups for you for the 41 question survey?
I see, on the general, just on the click-on survey for
Yeah,
the superintendent
click on
profile?
this, yeah.
So the idea would be that when somebody clicks on this to answer it, they would identify themselves among this
Yes.
as one of these subgroups?
Because some of the charts, the graphs that we're going to show you will be broken down by subgroups. So you'll be able to compare what do the administrators in the district think is most important and what does some support staff think most is.
Could we have a category for community member?
There is.
Oh, there is, I'm sorry, I missed that.
No, we missed it.
Name the 5 or 6.
Administrators, board member, community, faculty, parents, students, support staff, union, and then we have one it's other.
But we can only do 6.
But we only do 6 of those.
So if we took out students.
I think,
So this is for the online
Yeah, for the
survey.
online survey. And normally we put our union members are typically either members of the support staff or usually members of CSEA or SEIU. And
SBTA in our case, yeah.
faculty is part of CTA.
Yeah.
so that's an overlap, so we
So
don't
yes.
really need that.
So if we
It'd be
did that-
admin, board members, community, faculty, parents, and support staff.
Yes, 6.
Okay. Ms. Lamont?
So with the students when I get them?
The students
The students
not-
would need to go into community, so.
For board, there's only 5 of us.
do
So
you-
I
do you
think
need
we
us
would
to-
get more students, we would get more, even if we got more than 5, more students than we would board, so could we take the board out?
Let me prejudice you a minute.
Okay, excuse me.
What people are interested in is what you believe in value. For the students, the relationship between the superintendent is sometimes not, it's a little more distant. The best thing we get from students is if we can get a meeting with them. So we'll try to schedule a meeting and maybe go to some of the leadership. Sometimes we can do a late afternoon meeting. We sometimes get better results if we do a leadership class. We'll have to work that out with the high schools and see what's the best way for us to get information from the students.
So the community would see the results, so they could see how the board members.
Yes.
Okay,
So what's
oh,
most
that makes
important
more
to
sense
you
to me.
compared
Okay.
to what's most important?
Yeah, that does make
Right.
sense. Then I think we do need to be in there.
weighted, yeah.
Yeah,
even
because
though-
you're the opinion trendsetters here.
And you're going to ask us, and I actually started a list, to provide community contacts?
Yes.
There she goes.
Okay.
Yes. So are we settled on the 6th then? Administrators?
Ms. Lamont, were you
No, so then
satisfied with that?
I guess that I could see some people just saying, I'm going to,
Oh, it's possible. It's possible that you can
Pretend
take
that-
3 bites of the apple. You could be a parent, you could be a community member, and you could be a faculty member. We don't struggle with that. And we've done our statistics class to get our doctorate, so we're not saying this is statistically significant or even a scientific sample. It is a sample, and it'll give you information. So, yeah, people can do that. Now, If
Yeah, it
anybody
may turn
tries
out
to
that
be
we
a board
find that there are
member, there's
15
only
board
5 of
members.
us.
That's what I was gonna say, there might be 15 board members as such. I don't know, I guess I do want to give the students a voice, because I feel we have some really great student leaders that have been talking about leadership at our schools and in the district, so if we're going to do it in form of a meeting, I would be okay with that. I just,
And we
Well,
would- in a
well,
recording.
you're making me think, rather than having the board members be one of the categories, in which case people could go in and call themselves a board member when they're not.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah, I can't imagine that it would, but it seems sort of,
What happens is a former board member might come in.
Yeah.
That happens, does.
is if we had a category for students instead, would there be a mechanism, it might even be an internal mechanism, by which we could, we could fill out our surveys ourselves and then post the results along with the survey results here so that the community can see what our answers are, but still have that 6th category available for students.
I'll talk, I'm not sure. This is all done, through the computer. We don't, all of the responses are generated that way. The charts are generated that way. I'll ask if there's a way for us to do 5 others. I really can't answer that since I'm not the tech person, but it seems like you could do something. But you have to tabulate, all those things. It's like the Scantron.
Well, maybe you can say, if there's not, then board members should be on it, and if there's a contingency way that the board members could be done separately, then we would
Then let's
prefer
have
that.
students.
Then we'd prefer
Yeah.
that.
That's great.
That allows us to move.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Herron?
I'm just, you've got 16 one-hour slots in those 2 days for appointments.
They're not all 1 hour. We're permitting
Well,
groups.
the schedule shows 1 hour, so.
We'll break those in half. Sometimes we'll pick a group and we'll say we'll need 45 minutes if it's a group this large. Maybe I'll only need 30 minutes if it's a group of 3. We'll
Okay,
work-
so some of these are group meetings.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
because we took up 5 of the 16. It just
Yes,
seemed
yes.
like it's overkill if we're going to take up that much time.
Yeah,
No,
no.
you're important.
Well, you're going to see a lot of us.
Because your students are usually a group, and whatever you decide, and we've done it in several ways, your union leadership combined or as individual units. Parent foundations, we've done your support, so we have a list.
Let's just do it right now.
Should we do it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we,
Ms. Deacon has a list that she has generated of people that she has.
And I'm sure I forgot groups, so I was hoping my fellow board members would weigh in, if not right now.
I mean, clearly, it would be something like community foundations. This is sort of more of an invitation list than a group list, but, yeah, these look good.
Does your list include examples from all of them?
Yes, I think we would need to identify for you which category these fell into.
Right.
so we know the
This
first
was
2 are
just
your
a
union.
brainstorming list, yeah.
Your first 2 on the list are your union.
Union,
rep,
yeah.
okay?
And the PTAs, PTOs? I mean, the only, so what I'm seeing that's different is a foundations, a community foundations as opposed to the PTAs and PTOs, but a community foundations list and a
And
local politicians.
Community leaders.
could we ask
A lot of them
on the
have asked
community
to weigh in.
foundations list, the Santa Barbara Ed Foundation, Partners in Education?
Yes.
Are there other groups here that would be considered part of
Yes.
that?
Well,
Santa Barbara High School Foundation.
Santa
And
Barbara-
the
No,
DP
I would
I-
consider that a school, PTA, PTO.
Yeah, I think the
Okay, 'cause
DP and the
those are
Santa
related to
Barbara
school.
and Harding School Foundation, those are scholarship foundation.
Scholarship Foundation.
So are we distinguishing between foundations and nonprofits?
I would say the same, it would
I
need to be
would
the same,
not,
foundations
yeah.
and nonprofits.
Right.
Together, they can be
Together.
together.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to, microphone?
I would kind of throw the Chamber of Commerce in there too.
In the foundation?
Well,
They're community groups. I don't know if it needs to,
nonprofit as a group.
See,
You need a representative from each of them?
Yes, is that what you're meaning? 'Cause
A
I-
representative from each of the foundations come together, because if you're going to,
not the whole one, yes, it wouldn't be, but
So
we're
it-
gonna be the whole foundation.
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
instead of.
we might not want to do this on the fly, but we might want to just lump like categories, you know.
Ursula Bauer.
Yes, because these are fun.
And then maybe we can work with Mimi to make sure we get them into the right category. We could do that. So we're saying that your foundation representative and nonprofit representatives can be one group. Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the consensus there? What would
The
you say?
foundation rep and nonprofit rep could be one group.
And actually, Mr. Price is recommending that we split those into funders, people who give money to the district, and then nonprofits that support the district in a different way. Because they'll have different interests.
Okay.
Are these group meetings? I mean,
Yes.
Well, we want to be sure that's the case, so we would bring representatives from each group, not individuals.
Right.
Because we would never get through all of them.
No.
Well, they may not all come. I mean, this is just, I think there was this idea of an invitation, at least to participate in some way, either in an interview or in the survey.
And Mimi would know, for example, where did I see? Padres Unidos. She would know whether that's a nonprofit or where it fits, correct? So we can.
Or she
would.
could
Right.
confer
She
with
would.
Dr.
Confer
Sarvis.
with us.
She can confer with you. All right.
And would Padres Adelantes be in there too?
Sure.
Well,
Like I said, I knew it.
I think that then you're also looking at a sort of a parent group one, and I think that like the PTAs, PTOs, Padres Adelantes, the parent advisory committees, SEEK, those should be like parent groups.
But what I'm saying is I think we should include Padres Adelantes.
Yes.
I mean, those are going to be hour and a half, 2-hour meetings. I mean,
I don't know.
That, I mean, just depend on how they're scheduled. I mean, I could see a group of 5 or 10 people coming in for an hour, you know, one of these hour slots, and that working.
You could do that. But we may have to chunk down if we're going to get to all of the groups that we need to see.
There's also some, that, for example, Esperanza, Pueblo, Padres Unidos, Padres Adelantes, DILAC, ELAC, are ones that would be specifically looking, I think, at Latino students, English language learner issues, that
Definitely
those,
bilingual.
that those groups might come in together.
Yeah.
So there are other ways of breaking down the
Right.
the Latino Achievement Summit group. There are other ways of breaking it down also in terms of the students that they might be focused on.
Right, and that would help you pick, to make sure that you're facilitating that one, so that if we have the bilingual
Yes.
piece.
Well, I was gonna say either bilingual or two, because if the
Sure.
group gets too big, if we're really inviting all of the PTSAs, because I guess for me, I'm also trying to distinguish how we would identify those who get invited to a meeting versus those that we encourage to go to the open forums. A lot of these, actually all of these, I would think would be people who would be invited to an open forum. And so I mean, I don't, how much duplication
In
might
some,
be or
in some
not.
districts, what they've done is that the group, your executive council of your PTA, PTOs is the one that has met, and then the presidents from the other schools or other representatives can come to the public forum. It'll be up to you to,
And we don't have a PTA, PTO executive council.
Oh, you do not?
For our district.
Okay.
There is an area council, but it includes other districts.
Oh, okay.
So that is, I mean, we would need to specifically invite, well, I mean, that's, it's going to be about 20 or so presidents if we wanted to
Yeah.
do that way. Is that too many people for a meeting? Would we need to pare that down?
You can do 20. It's just getting the 20 available, within a week,
Yeah.
so we're going to have to.
Well, and
But
whether
then
they would
we-
all come or
Well,
not.
there's also, at that point, I would suggest things like taking off the parent advisory committees. If we're going to do the PTA route, you know, you need to choose one or the other because, you know,
There might be
then
some
you're going up to about 50 or 60 people that would be invited to a meeting.
Willis.
The only thing that you might want to consider is, do your parent advisory committees, are they represented on the PTA? And sometimes they are not.
I think they're not, a lot of
So
them.
that, and that's a group.
See, my question would be more, do we need to have every single PTA, PTO represented? Or would it be better to have just a random few,
How do you pick which ones?
maybe purely randomly, or, but my question was going to be, should we just have a few PTAs, and then some of the parent advisory committees as well? Or, how do we?
I actually, I agree that I think that might be a good idea, like one elementary, one junior high, and one high school PTA or PTO executive, and then one representative from the committees that can be chosen randomly by, for whatever reason, and then that way you'd have a smaller group, you'd probably have about 10.
And then, and then, of course, anybody who wants to can come to the public forums.
No, and I do think that the group should be smaller. I think 20 is a lot for a 1-hour meeting. I'm just thinking other meetings I've been to.
Well, we
But-
do forums that are,
I
No,
just don't
for-
think,
for-
I just don't
for
think
a
all
For a
20
forum,
PTA
yes, because I think the structure is
Yeah.
different, but for the smaller groups, the 16 slots or whatever it is, I think it might be a lot. I do see some difficulties in narrowing down who comes, so.
My concern is you invite 20 people, you might get 10. I mean, I just don't, I think with schedules.
Yeah, they're not going to all come.
So my inclination would be to invite all the PTA presidents, knowing that they probably,
And you can
not
invite-
a lot, won't be able to work.
there are going to be lots of similarities in terms of the things
Yeah.
they surface. The same questions are going to be asked of every group, and they'll have more than one opportunity, including the survey, so, but you're quite right. And unfortunately, sometimes, particularly with some groups, they don't show at all.
Well, my concern is that PTAs tend to, within some fairly general parameters, tend to focus on very similar things. And if we have, 20 different PTA representatives, you tend to overemphasize those issues in terms of the amount of information we get about them versus getting other kinds of information from some of the other groups. So that's why I'm concerned about having all the PTAs represented.
Well, I would say it would just be in one slot, and again, I don't think you're going to get all of them.
Well, that's true.
And every school is different, and every school has different needs and interests, so, but you might want to combine them with, like, the
You
SPAC
certainly want
and
to do all the parent advisory committees in SEAC, but in those ones, I would say maybe only have one representative
Right.
from each group.
Right,
Usually the chair
Like the
comes,
chair.
or they,
Okay.
or
Great
they
idea.
designate a rep.
right.
I want to ask a couple of a thought, and I know you probably said, how can we be out of here in 30 minutes? Not at the rate we're going. Is it possible that one or two of you would work with Mimi to give her your best thinking about this list?
I think that's a great idea.
It's a great idea.
Because she's the person who's
Yeah.
going to schedule for us, and hopefully she'll start Monday, and I know
Yeah.
she's got lots to do, and hopefully there'll be someone to help her. This is the biggest intrusion of her time,
Yeah.
is getting these schedules done, so that people can come on the 14th of March.
Okay.
So if that's possible, then, well, we could maybe speed up the process, and
People and
the people, and they're the key leaders, key communicators, people you need to hear from.
Well, I would think each board member could send Mimi names or organizations, and then.
I think your list is great. If
I think
there's
I'm
somebody
afraid
needs to
I'm
be
missing-
added, I would send it to you, if
Oh,
you don't
okay.
mind talking to Mimi
No,
and
that's fine.
helping,
That's
because
fine.
what she's not going to know necessarily is, how many from each group should we ask, and what group do they fall under?
Yeah.
What umbrella do they fall
I don't
under?
think we should be inundating Mimi with
Yeah,
5 different lists.
yeah.
Okay.
But I do think that the idea of having 2 members maybe sit together and look at how these categories get broken down would be a good idea.
Well, I'll volunteer.
I was going to
since
say,
I started.
Susan, if you were willing to volunteer, is there somebody else who wants to work with Susan to
I
help?
have a question first.
Yes?
who specifically would you say you would want a one-on-one with? Are there certain individuals, like you've got
Us.
one-on-one with us? Are there
You're the
others?
only ones that we're sure about. The rest of them, you guide us. If there's someone you think is so important that, you know, I won't throw out a city official, but you say, oh, you know, he's got to have 30 minutes of your time.
Sometimes your media may say, I think you have more than one here. They want to have an exclusive, not together, but I don't know how it works in your
I
community.
just wondered, are there, on this list, are there people who want to carve out to say, okay, we've got to save this many slots for individuals? That would then leave us the number of slots for groups.
I don't see anybody in here that needs to be an individual, and I can't think of anybody that would need to have one-on-one time. I mean, if there's,
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
How does it work with the principals? I mean, do you bring them in as a group?
We bring them in as a group. And we also, when we leave the room, there's always the last comment. If there's something that you wanted to say here that you didn't feel comfortable in saying with a group, here's how you contact me. So we get that information, so.
So we need 2 rooms, because you're going to be doing this simultaneously.
Yes, yes.
okay.
And so how do you decide who's going to do the teachers, who's going to do the community, who's going to do this?
We decide together.
That part is not exclusive. The part that's, we have to be very careful about is that if we need a Spanish speaker, that we get that person with so that.
And you 2 are going to be doing it?
We may have, don't forget, Dr. Rudy Castrita is
That's
going
right.
to join us, so we'll, and Maggie may not join us. We may lose her along the way, so it may be.
At least on those 2 days.
Dr. Castrita and I will be doing it. And if we have to find a third, we will, but we definitely need 4 days with 2 people, and we'll see if we can't get something in, we'll work on it.
So it's really 2 days.
It's 2 days, 2 people.
Okay.
Yes.
I would like the
Okay.
50 thing.
Okay, great.
Susan.
Great.
Monique and Susan. Okay.
Susan and
And I'll send, is it okay if I send this list out to everybody? I think it is, right?
Yeah.
It is. Mr. Price, does that list need to be available to any member of the public?
I would imagine whether we get it on email or having gotten it now, doesn't probably make a
This is
difference in terms of,
Public forum, so,
yeah.
okay.
Well, you're talking about sending out in a one-way communication a list subsequent to this, which is fine, and following that, if any member of the public requests that document, then it's subject to disclosure at that time.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be made public, like made available at a meeting, that kind of thing. Yes.
And it'll be added too, because we will ask board members to make sure there's ones we haven't forgotten.
I just have one comment. I don't like the idea of selective lists, saying you can come but you can't. So somehow, whatever you do, it's got to be somewhat open, that if I want to come to one of these sessions, I can come to one of the sessions.
Well, that's what the community forum is for.
That's what the community forum
Yeah.
is for.
But if it says you can invite,
I don't think with the individual or
the
the,
teachers, open meeting for teachers, or support staff, principals, assistant principals. I think we can select which principals you want to come.
No, those would be everybody's.
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's got,
Yeah.
I don't like the selectivity in those kinds of, you can come but you can't come.
They can self-select.
no, I don't think there's any attempt to
Well,
say
you gotta
anybody
meet with-
can't come.
No, okay, we're going to have a meeting with principals. Well, I want this principal, this principal, this
No, no,
principal,
no,
but
no.
not these principals.
No.
It sounds like
no.
some of them you need to select representatives for, but it wouldn't be for any like employee groups or anything like that where you would
No, your
select certain-
principals, you would extend the invitation to all your principals.
Yeah.
That's my concern,
Yeah.
that we don't select
No,
which ones we
no.
want.
How does that work with SBTA then? I mean, we know we have a president, but there's an executive council as well. I mean,
Oftentimes, we meet with the executive board, and then we have an open meeting for the teachers, and vice versa, same thing for support staff.
so that open meeting for teachers is separate from the open meeting for the community?
Generally try to give them an opportunity, again, or the community forum, sometimes if they can make that, that's just as well, but and given, I'm not sure that's on there, but that's generally what we do. We have an open meeting for the teachers.
Is that one of the slots?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the slots.
And it's usually one of your later ones to make sure it doesn't interfere with they're able to come after school before the parent forum, which is usually a little later.
So I get that's I guess that as I'm listening to this, so are all the evening meetings going to happen on the 14th? Because if we have a Spanish and English community forum, and then we also have something later that afternoon, evening for the teachers, and I'm guessing we would likely, I mean, is that too much to happen on one night, or is this happening on the 15th too?
No, the teacher meeting would be late in the afternoon. It would not conflict with your parent forums, public forums.
So like a 4, I'm just trying to
But we
logistically
just-
think, can we
yeah.
really do all of this on the 14th?
Well,
Because I feel like that's
so
a
the
lot.
point- so the first-
That's a good point.
The 14th and the 15th?
But I
The
did
14th, the teacher group meeting could be on the 15th. It doesn't need to be
Okay,
on,
so we are using the 15th in the afternoon and evening as well.
not the evening.
Not,
But you've raised a good point, because we have Monique at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, and we have Susan at 5, so that's a good point. Those would be good slots for the
others.
teachers.
Okay, well then I can move mine.
We probably should move it so that, you're right, we would have another, a later time to be.
Well, couldn't we do that on the Monday? Sorry. Could the
Oh,
teacher
have-
meetings be on the Monday
Yes.
instead of the Tuesday?
Well, we're going to do the community, but they could, and we're holding Monday for the community forum.
In the evening.
And-
Right.
But if we could even open one of the slots, maybe if Monique can
can
move
do- I
hers,
can-
if you want to stay put.
I'm going to have,
Yeah.
yeah,
I can-
because I'm coming back into town that day.
Monique, what's good for you then?
We can keep talking when I figure out the date, sorry.
Okay.
All right.
Lane has a question.
April 14th, rep council meeting, which has been scheduled a year in advance. I'm more than willing to.
It's April, this is March.
We're talking about March.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Well, let me just check.
Okay. Usually your rep council meetings are pretty much the same.
This is March.
Okay, good.
March 14th.
okay, so what I would like to see, if it's possible, is at some point, kind of, you know, as soon as you get it all squared away, if we could see dates attached to this list here that you have of the principals meeting, the teachers' open meeting, the public meetings, et cetera, we could see dates and times attached to those. I think that would certainly help me sort of visualize how everything is
We'll come
moving
back
forward.
in minutes.
Okay,
But we will shoot first to get the list done,
yeah,
and if that has to say, takes precedence over our getting all of the
Right.
information back to you. We do need to work with Mimi, and we need to work quickly with
Yes.
her to get her going.
yes.
Who
So-
from the administrative staff we want that we meet with personally? Like Dr. Sarvas, Robin, David, Garrett, Carrie, special ed?
Can't they just meet as a group with the?
I don't know, I'm just asking, where do they fit into it? Do we want any?
They can meet
individual
as a group. We often meet with the superintendent privately. We also like to meet with the superintendent's administrative assistant.
Assistants, yeah.
Because those are,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, some of them may have individual comments that.
Well, if they have individual comments, can't they email you or call
if
you?
they do,
Yeah.
that's absolutely right. If they don't
Yeah.
want to make a public comment, I want to do that on the phone, so,
Yeah.
so, but they, definitely they need to have access if they need to say something they don't want to say in public. So it's good, we'll do that.
Right.
Okay, so I actually have some flexibility, so I can say, I mean, I think Mrs. Parker's doing it at 1, so I could do 2, that's fine, but,
On the 15th.
right. But if we needed to change that, I could, in case
So
something
let's
comes up.
get started with that, and then,
Fill in some dates.
Yes.
March 15th at 2.
um,
Are we clear that we're going to, have we done enough on
Yeah.
this? Okay. Let's just keep on rolling.
no, we've done number 4. We've scheduled the interviews with each of you on our list, and now so we have your dates. Should I review these just to make sure? Did you all
I think
get
we're
them
good.
down?
I think we're good.
Okay,
Go
all
back
right.
to it.
Well, and they'll come back to you in the minutes as well. Now-
During the search, the liaison often is the board president. It doesn't have to be. If that's, and I know your schedule's tight, but it often is. The liaison, I'll be the liaison from our organization. So the liaison is the person with whom, if I had a question, I needed an answer. If it's general information, I'll send you all an email and say, here's the ad, it goes out on whatever. But if something comes up and I say, oh gosh, I need an answer, I'll call the liaison. And that would be something, it would be something you might share with everyone, but it's not intended to be. It's one of those on the spur, I can't think of a reason right now, but how are we going with the list? Did Mimi get the list?
Mhm.
So I'd call the liaison. So is there someone on the board that would, Madam President, would you want that responsibility?
I'd be happy to do that.
Do you have the time to do it?
That's my only concern, it's just that,
Can I be in touch with you?
yeah, that's it's at least until the middle of May. I teach, full-time. So I teach,
I'm wondering if it would be better to have the vice president do it since your
would that be
schedule's
okay
more
with you,
flexible.
Susan, to be the
Okay,
liaison?
Okay, and I could always confer with Annette
Right.
if I need to. If it's a question I feel I don't want to answer, just speaking for myself. Okay.
Usually I don't
Yeah,
ask anything.
I'd be happy
Okay,
to,
if it's just a kind of a bureaucratic role, I'm fine.
yeah,
with
I'd be happy
doing
to
that.
be the liaison for, the more formal things.
Okay.
But little things that need an immediate response.
Yeah,
if
I'd
you-
probably more like, my
if-
time's is a little
would
more
be-
flexible.
Yeah, great.
We could touch
Thank
base
you.
if you felt it was something you needed to confer.
And as far as our association, Carolyn will be the primary contact.
Great.
And I think you all have her contact info. You've talked about the number of candidates already. 5 is usually what we like to shoot for. But sometimes it may be a little more, it may be a 6th one, depending. And they start kind of naturally breaking once we have the criteria and start looking at applications, and you start giving us, and we've gotten all the data through the leadership profile. Now, inside candidates, do you have a preference for how do we proceed with them? Usually we treat them just like we would treat any external candidate if they were a viable candidate.
And we've actually had the conversation, and it's been determined, however they are, Mr. Price and I talked about it, if an internal candidate surfaced, they would be treated as any other candidate.
I think
Makes
that's
sense, yeah.
appropriate.
Mhm.
Same confidentiality.
Yes,
that whole thing.
exactly, the whole
Okay.
thing.
We actually received some information regarding compensation. You'll get a compensation form from the candidate so they can tell you what they're looking for. We'll provide them with a salary range in terms of this is what's happening in the area. Sometimes areas, your salaries are commensurate with whatever's going on in this county, et cetera. I think we have a copy of the contract, so I think we have enough information to inform candidates about what is, and then they'll inform you about their desires when they get to that point. The next one is national postings.
Back up on that.
Sure.
I forget, were you going to give us your best judgment as to what we should be looking at in compensation?
I think what you asked me was, would we look at something within the county, and if we could get something from your county to give us some range, but it's difficult sometimes because of the size of the district, a small district versus a district like Santa Barbara, and you may have some salary information
Our small
already.
districts are all basic aid and pay
Oh,
their
okay.
superintendents
Well,
enormous
look at that.
amounts of money. Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how relevant the in-county information is going to be because the demographics and among other things, the property values are much different in the North County where the other 2 large school districts are. And I think just from my end of things that it would be useful to have you tell the board what you believe from whatever data is available to you that a realistic salary range would look like in order to attract the top qualified candidates that they would like to see, given the characteristics of Santa Barbara in terms of, if you want to call it cosmopolitan, if you want to call it expensive, or however whatever category you would put that in.
On the application, candidates tell us their current salary, so we can have some judgments based on what it is, what they're already receiving. We also have to look inside those figures because they're not always total compensation. So
I guess I don't want to rely on what they are getting or what, I'm looking for help on a macro scale. What should we be looking at?
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Well, just
I can't sit here and decide what's right and what's wrong. I mean, if there's some kind of thing in your experience, you're the one doing this, that you see as parameters for certain size districts, then I would expect feedback from you. If we set a standard that's totally unrealistic and expect you to go out and find something for that, doesn't make much sense.
Well, do we set the standard now? I mean, do you fly it with competitive salary offered?
That's how you fly it.
And then we, as we get into the final candidates, then we think about making sure it really is competitive? I mean, I don't know that we would.
Put it as a parameter in your ads as to what the
Competitive, negotiable. You may do something, you can sometimes have a sentence that talks about a competitive, comparable with local, regional salary schedule, something if you think. Some places pay much more because living is so much, the cost of housing is so much more.
I don't think we can put comparable because even though we're surrounded by communities that maybe even have a lower cost of living, they're all, as you said, the small ones are basic aid. They are in much more financially secure position than we are.
Sounds like what you want to say is competitive. And
I think so too. I think so.
Well, it means that the salary is, for that, it means when you get down to negotiations, you're going to negotiate a salary. And the person is going to know, is going to have some idea. Everyone knows what your current superintendent, if you want that information, it's available. Yeah. So they'll know what the current salary is, and they'll be able to say, that's something, I could live with less, I could live with more. It's difficult to say, you give folks a range, but we know that when you sit down and start negotiating with your candidate, you'll do what you need to do to attract that candidate. And I'm not suggesting that you're going to take the top off the salary schedule, but the person coming to you will have some idea about what the salary already is here. And they're going to be reasonable about that. And when we talk to candidates, we will tell them, this is not the place for you to expect to get a very elongated salary. It's not going to happen here.
If I could, I'm sorry.
I guess I'm hearing what Mr. Heron's saying, and I was looking for a little bit of market research of saying in the last 3 years in California, school districts with this size that are not basic aid and this demographic, so whatever, free and reduced, have this range. And I'm not sure if you could provide that. I guess I was just thinking,
since
there has
that.